our first company, may I invite Beacon Trusteeship Ltd to come.
So, good morning everyone. I'm here to present about our company, Beacon Trusteeship Ltd. Thank you all for taking the time out today. I'll be presenting on Beacon. So, Beacon has become the first and only trustee company to be listed in India. We got listed on the 4th of June and we got an excellent response from the investors. The issue was subscribed by 467 times and we collected 10,160 crores with about 4,52,000 applications coming in from all. We had 40 FIIs and 11 VCs investing into the company. So that was a thundering response. So this will be broadly the contents of the presentation. Getting on to the executive summary. The promoter is me, Pratap Singh Nathani. I'm a professional banker. So I've spent 20 years in the BFSI industry, starting from Centrum, JM Financial, J Morgan Stanley, and ended with ING USA Bank, where I was head of debt capital markets and loan syndication. So it's been a career of bond markets, loan syndication, and debt. So that's how I found about this business called the trusteeship. I found gaps where I thought I should, whenever I get an opportunity, I should start this business. So that's how I started in 2016. Towards December in 2015, we started applying for the license. We got the approval in February of 2016, and 1st of April, we started the business. First year was a loss, and we topped up the net worth. The requirement for a trustee company was 2 crores. Now it is 10 crores, with about 2 people in the same business who had the experience of the trustee side. So that's how we started. It's been 8 years. I'll tell you about our business model. It's an extensive product portfolio of about 12 major products like bonds, loans, AIF, REITs, InvITs. Basically, we act as a trustee to NBFCs, corporates, those who are starting MFIs, going into the future to will drafting and executor trustee. The competitive advantage is we are one of the 9 trustees, and out of the 9 there are about 4 trustees which are institutional trustees backed by PSU banks as a subsidiary, and the rest 5 are private trustees. So basically the model of the trustee is throughout the tenure of the bond that is issued, bond, loan, AIF, you pay an upfront fee and then the fee is payable on an annual basis. So it's an annuity business typically. If you've heard of an annuity business, this is what it is. So there's a signing fee and a service fee. And there's an attractive EBITDA. So the largest trustee would be having an EBITDA over time of about 80%. We are not there yet. That's what we are going for. And we are at about 40-45-ish EBITDA and about 26% profit margins. What is the differentiator? There's a digital thrust that we've put from day one. Wherever we've participated as offering a product, for example, a bond trustee, we've gone there and put in software, ERP systems, and we've tried to push in tech as far as possible. So the trustee business is a 30-year-old business in India, and what we've been pushing alongside the business is as much as tech inside we can possibly do, we've been doing that. So we've been having proven execution capabilities. The team is experienced. Kaustubh beside me is an experienced person, of course not counting the experience with Beacon. He's been a management consultant in the past life, and I've been a banker. So we've built the team accordingly as and when we required. We have people from other older trustees like IDBI. And I myself started the trustee company with a partner from who had experience from 2 other trustee companies. And we also got in another person from a trustee background who had started IDBI trustee. So that's how the journey started. So I've told you the names of 2 people, Pratap and Kaustubh. Mr. Sanjay Sinha, as we see, is an ex-CEO from Axis Trustee. As he retired, we took him on board as an independent director. And he also helps us to build the business further as an advisor. Sanjay Bhasin was my boss in JM Morgan Stanley. He quit and he went to London. In London, he joined a couple of other banks, starting a bad bank in London and in Africa. Then we have Mr. Vasan Paulraj, who's been a very active investment banker with companies like INAM. So he spent about 20 of his years in INAM Securities, INAM Financial Consultants. So he is also there for all the advice we need whenever we can. Then there's Bhumika Gupta, a woman director. She's from Gujarat. The management team, Jaideep Bhattacharya from, Jaideep Bhattacharya is from IDBI and Axis Capital, Axis Trustee. Then there's Veena Nautiyal, an experienced banker in the BFSI segment. Mahesh Ghadi, heading the AIF segment, is also an experienced person in the AIF industry. Deepavali, Neelu and Kamal Paul, again experienced senior guys who are managing the team on a day-to-day basis. So going to the products, Kaustubh is taking over.
Thank you. So we'll quickly brief on the, am I audible? Okay. So we'll quickly brief on the products which we offer, because this might be, this is the first time probably most of you would be, going through these kinds of products. So I'll be slightly more detailed in this. So first of our, or the major product which we offer is our debenture trustee services. So these are typically the NCDs or bonds issued by various issuers. Now this can be either a listed bond or an unlisted bond. If at all it's a listed bond, it is under the SEBI regulations. So SEBI regulates all the listed issues in India. Now, and there are again unlisted bonds which are under Companies Act. Now, as a trustee and under Companies Act, it is mandatory to have a debenture trustee for all the bond issuances. So as a trustee, our primary role is to protect the interest of the investors and to, and create a charge, or whatever the security is being offered by the issuer. We create a charge on that security and continue to hold and monitor that security and the performance of the company till the life of the bond. Also, in case of any defaults, etc., it is our responsibility to enforce the security and make good the payments or due which are in defaults. So this is the broad framework for the debenture trustee. Second product is security trustee. Now this is again wherever any corporate opts to take a loan, right, from a bank, and within that there are 2 types of arrangements. Either it can be a sole lender or a group of lenders, or it can be on a consortium basis. Now what happens is the security which is being offered to take the loan by the borrower, the security is held by us under an agreement called as security trustee agreement. The charge, etc., is created in favor of Beacon, and we again, like in debenture trustee, we will continue to hold the charge till the life of the loan. Now this typically is a very beneficial product, and it is more prevalent in large companies. But now we are witnessing that slightly smaller companies are also opting for this product because of various benefits. So for example, what happens is whenever it gives it gives an immense flexibility for borrower to switch across the lenders, because the security and the transaction cost is, it's a one-time kind of an activity where the charge is created on the security with the Beacon, and you can easily replace the lender depending on your financial acumen. So for example, if a bank is giving a better rate, you can easily replace that while signing a simple agreement which forms a part of as an annexure to the existing security trustee agreement. So you don't have to go for again stamp duty and again and again making all these documents as a process for that. Second is the AIF trust end, which is a upcoming product as such. So if you see the influx of various funds being set up in India, the most preferred route is the AIF model, which is again under the SEBI regulations, and SEBI regulates these AIF trust. Now AIF is in three categories: category 1, category 2 and category 3. Category 1 is typically for early stage companies, category 2 is for equity and debt, and category 3 is for hedge funds, etc., which are slightly more riskier, and there are separate regulations for that. In this case, what happens is, suppose a person who wants to set up a AIF, he will approach us, we will set up a trust, that is an AIF trust, and the trustee to that AIF trust would be Beacon. Now, we are typically the custodian again, and the person who is setting up the trust is called a settler or an investment manager. So he would be responsible for collecting investments and investing in various portfolio companies, whereas we would be managing the trust in certain cases we do operations as well, like banking operations or demat operations, etc., and also to ensure the compliances with all the SEBI regulations. So there are various quarterly reports or annual reports which we have to submit, and which we have to take it from the investment manager as well. Now, again, as a central role, here also we are acting as a custodian of the assets, etc. And the primary duty would be towards protecting the interests of the investors who have pooled in their money in these trusts. Securitization is another product which is of greater importance for us. So securitization is typically buying and selling of pool of assets. Typically these are financial or non-financial assets. So again, in securitization there are two products. So first is the direct assignment. Now what happens is, suppose an NBFC has a pool of loans, they have invested certain amount, say for example, if we take a pool of say 10 loans for example. Now these 10 loans having outstanding value of 100 each, that is the total pool size would be rupees 1000. Now what they do is they sell these pool of assets to a bank or an NBFC or a larger NBFC. Against that they get capital, that is say for example 1000 was the outstanding, and there is something called as assignment ratio. So 90-10 is the typical assignment ratio in these transactions. So 900 rupees would be transferred by the purchaser, in this case it is called as an assignee, to the assigner, which is the originator of the loan. So 900 rupees is done, and all the receivables of the underlying pool would be bifurcated into 90-10 ratio. Now the underlying loan would be doing at a, say for example, at an average of a 15%, whereas the pool with the assignee which has bought the pool would be at a 10%. So there is a spread of 5%, and that again goes to the NBFC who has originated the pool, and he keeps on servicing till the life of these underlying assets. So this is a direct assignment transaction. So we as a trustee act as an assignee's representative. So the person or the entity or a bank or an NBFC who is buying these pools, we are acting as their representative, and our role would be to take the collection reports from the originator, analyze it and distribute it and make the payouts to the investor and to the originator. So typically whatever the collections are, and then we do certain calculations. For that we have an inbuilt proprietary software called Beacon Prosec, which automatically we just upload the collection report, and all the calculations happen at the obligor level, and then the distribution happens. The second part of securitization or second product is PTCs or pass-through certificates, or it is also called as SDI, that is securitized debt instruments. So these can be listed or unlisted. These are simple debt instruments like an NCD, which will have a coupon and a principal with a certain cash flow at a particular, for a particular tenure. The only difference between direct assignment and PTC is there is an SPV which is created in the form of a trust, and the receivables of the pool assets are assigned to a trust which is formed by the trustee, and we as a trustee manage that. So against the pools which have been assigned, the trust issues a debt instrument called as PTC, that is pass-through certificate. It's like an NCD, for example, which will have a coupon, and it will coupon, maturity, tenure, etc. And with a IM, like we have in the bonds issue. These can be, as I said, can be listed or unlisted. If it is listed, it will fall under the purview of SEBI. Escrow services is again a new thing, because we have seen a lot of changes from the banking side actually. So earlier what used to happen is most of the banks would themselves act as an escrow agent. Now, because of certain exposure which bank doesn't want to take, they insist that there has to be a third party fiduciary entity where like an escrow agent would be preferred. So what we do is we act as a third party fiduciary entity where we process the transaction basis the escrow agreements which are executed between the parties. So we act as a custodian of the asset. The asset can be, typically it is more or less the monies which are exchanged against certain timelines, etc. Or it can be certain assets as well. Now the typical use cases would be a fintech platform or a fantasy gaming platform or a transaction based escrows, investments, M&As, settlements, etc. The last slide would be the other products which we have, like InvIT, ESOP, REIT, Safekeeping Facility Agent, and Share Pledge Trustee. These are other products which we have, which typically would, again cater to protecting the interest of the investor or creating a security on behalf of the lenders. So these are key clientele across all the segments. Sure, it's visible. So in terms of SWOT, what we see as a risk is the offering of differential services and focused on implementation of technology-based solutions. So for there, what we have is we have been continuously focusing on the digitization of the trustee business, which has been traditionally physical in nature. So we do a lot of digitization activities, be it our ERP or securitization platforms or AIF platforms or IM management platform or even a fund accounting platform. So in terms of strength, as Pratap said, there are a lot of management bandwidth which we have with vast experience in this field. In terms of opportunities, of course, the fixed income securities market is growing. Overall, the lending in India has been on a growth trend. Plus, the additional services and the value-added services are also in demand.
So I'll take over from here. We did the Beacon IPO for raising capex, liquidity for us, currency for M&A. There are about 9 trustees in India. We look forward to picking 1 or 2 to become the larger ones. Also for brand and visibility. The Beacon IPO was for raising capex, enhance credibility with the investors. Being a SEBI regulated entity, it leads to higher governance, disclosure, and self-regulation. Then there's value assessment, transparency, liquidity, and value for the shareholders. Enhancing public image, which is helping us to grow in the market. Then price transparency, market valuation gives us access to M&A possibilities. We did an IPO of 32.52 crores. And as I said in the beginning, we got a thumping response. The breakup is 7 crores was for technology, 3.25 for a new office in the suburbs, 2.88 for general corporate purposes, 6.99 for taking up a license of RTA and DP, and the last portion is for the promoter OFS. So as far as the 7 crores is concerned, it was issued by the merchant banker directly from the escrow account to the software companies which were shortlisted. 3.25 we've already disbursed from the merchant, by the merchant banker into the builder's account. The possession has been delayed a bit, but we'll look into it now. The 6.99 crores, we've applied for the RTA license, which takes just 50 lakhs of net worth to apply to SEBI. SEBI has been asking us various queries and all. We've been answering that. So it should be up and running in the next 2.5 months. Once we become RTA, then we become eligible for a DP license. And these are in the form of a 100% subsidiary called Beacon Investor Holdings Private Limited. The remaining 2.88 crores will be using for expansion into Dubai, Mauritius, and Singapore. Now, one of the most important slides is trigger points for our growth. There is no other competitor listed in the trustee domain which gives us an edge over the competition. Now, why are we looking at growth in this market? As you've seen that the SEBI has been lowering the minimum denomination. Now they've reduced it to 10,000 rupees only, which used to be 10 lakhs, reduced to 1 lakh. Now it has been reduced to 10,000. There have been number of OBPP platforms, online bond platforms, which have come into play. And also SEBI has been asking for all the corporates doing anything about 1,000 crores to put 25% into debt markets. That's where the play comes. So that's where we'll be an active player. New products like the AF Trustee and the Security Trustee are developing well for us, and we should be able to add new revenue lines with the start of the Gift City office. That should give us another foray into the market. Then there are 2 associate companies which we plan to merge inside Beacon to grow Beacon itself. Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you. Thank you for a. Thank you. Hello. Thank you for a very nice presentation. Now we have the 10 minutes of Q&A. So there are 2 standees and I'll give 2 mics.
Question is that how are you different to a CAMS and Carvi when it comes to AIF trustee?
Okay. So CAMS and Carvi are not debenture trustees. So to act as a trustee to AIF trust, you need to have a debenture trustee license. Whereas CAMS and are typically RT, etc. So their role is totally different and our role is totally different. So there are no mixing business lines as such as far as that business is concerned.
Yeah, thanks for the great presentation. Just a couple of questions. One, you mentioned in the annual report, there is a predatory pricing by new entrants, right? Yeah. So how are you sort of competing with that? And second is you mentioned the top player has an 80% EBITDA margin. So what is the gap and how do you want to mitigate that gap?
So to address your first question in terms of the predatory pricing, so we are actively focusing on the cost reduction part, where we rationalize our cost in 2 fashion. So first is the training and the employee retention, and a lot of training goes into our products. Secondly, on the digitization part. So as I said, a lot of physical activity we are converting into an automated activity. That is one. And again, we are also developing a lot of platforms as such. So wherein whatever work we used to do, it is more and more focusing on automation. As far as your question in terms of the higher EBITDA margin is concerned, so there is a first mover advantage for these companies because they have started probably 30 years back. And there at that point in time, you had a lot of pricing monopoly as such. It was typically a monopoly at that point in time. And due to that fact, they are still enjoying those margins.
Yeah, hi, thanks. If you can give us some sense of your pricing strategy. Second, as an investor, whether it's largely B2B, why should a corporate or a bank should go for you versus say a more trusted name? So what are we doing to build the trust with our clients? And third, in that context of pricing strategy, the products that you mentioned, if you can give us some flavor of which product, what percentage of
Sure.
revenue share. Thanks.
So first is your question with respect to we as a private trustee and a trustee which is typically backed by an institution. See, at the end of the day, the license is given by SEBI. Whether it is bank promoted or a private trustee does not matter. We have to comply with the same regulations. So there is no differentiation as such. Of course, they might have certain advantages because the parent company, etc., etc. But again, it boils down to the kind of service we offer. So of course, I am not saying that they won't have advantages. They will definitely have certain advantages. But at the end of the day, we as a company will focus only on the customer service, our digitization initiatives, and our training and our people. So that is one part of it. Second question, sorry, I missed that. The pricing, yeah. So sure. Correct. So see, it is not related to the issue price. Now again, the pricing we will have to look at a product level. So in debenture trustee, what happens is because of the increasing compliances from SEBI, if you just go through the SEBI website and if you see regulations and the circulars, there are continuous updates which are coming up, and we have to also change accordingly. So the flexibility is extremely important, and compliance with the laws is further more important. So what happens typically is the cost to meet these compliances also goes up because we need to hire more people, etc. And of course, then we pass on that cost to our customers. Now, if you look at the percentage in terms of the issue size and our fees, it is very minimal. It is nothing practically. So it is as good as a typically rating agency would charge. It is on those lines. Now, as we have said in our presentation, so there are two types of fees which we charge. One is the acceptance fees, that is the one-time fee which we charge at the start of the transaction, and then there are annuity fees, right? So till a bond or any product is live, we will charge yearly in advance, right? Now this again, there would be certain escalation after 3 years, which is typically 10 to 15%, considering the inflation, etc. So that is one, and then we are also adding new revenue lines, like for example documentation. So we do certain documentation services as well. Then we do certain value-added services as well in terms of certain advising on certain structuring or hand-holding our customers, because that is also required at the end of the day. If you see any new issuer which is coming up or wants to issue bonds, it is really tedious process, and for them to understand and then learn and then issue will take a lot of time. So what we do is we handhold them and cut down that time span as such. Coming to in terms of the business model, whether you are saying that it's B2C only. Now, if you look the global market, there is a lot of retail play as well in the trust segment, in the trusteeship services. Now, as I'm sure you would second my opinion on this. Suppose I am a old person and people are really hesitant to make will, right? So typically this is the Indian mentality, and but we are seeing a shift now. So even so we have to question whether the will has to be made by only an old person or even a young person should make a will, and what is the process to do that. Now what happens is in terms of will or having a trust structure in terms of will, whether it is revocable or irrevocable, typically a friend or a relative is acting as a trustee. Now there is a risk in that. In certain cases, we have a lot of cases rather we have seen the trustee himself siphons off the money and runs away. In that case, actually a corporate trustee is a better option, because we are regulated and there you will have a lot of comfort as far as maintenance of asset and protection of asset is concerned, and passing on to your beneficiaries. So this is again a retail foray which we are actively planning. In fact, we have started that as well. So probably as we go along, we will have a certain traction on that front as well. Sure. So maximum are like overall, if you look at around 40-45% would be debenture trustee, around 20% would be AIF and security trustee, 10% would be around escrow services, and other products which we mentioned would be around 5%.
Yes, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes.
So I was looking at your previous performance. I mean, it looks to me that 30 to 35% earning growth you have delivered in last 3 to 4 years. If I look little bit ahead, so it looks to me 4 to 5x earning in the 5 years kind of time frame. Now, what happens? How big is the headroom for the sector, and what is your long-term vision? I'm not looking at 1 year, 2 year. Have you made a strategy? So if we look at 5 year, 4x, then we are looking at close to 100 crore turnover at this stage. So what is the scale of opportunity that will help us in making an informed decision? That what is the growth story which we are going to be part of?
So I'm not sure if we can make it forward-looking statements.
We can. So again, I will be I was in Infosys, and Mr. Murthy used to say that in God we believe, everybody else please bring data. You know, so without data, all this story differentiation, it doesn't make any appeal to me because the valuation is a function of earning and corporate governance. Now, the people who are not very clear about their vision, they have told these stories and last 3-4 years, I am wiser definitely. So I don't go for any story, I look for the earning growth. And I can tell you the name of the company, Insolation Energy, Bond Data, Core Digital, all these companies have published an annual report. Companies which don't publish, I suspect something fishy or there is not clarity in their head. You know, so if you don't have, I will suggest you go back to the boardroom and please come back to us.
So to answer your question, of course, so we have, of course, we have definite strategies for the next 5 years. Given the regulatory oversight which we have with our existing business and now being listed, we are a bit cautious. But however, I would like to say a few things. Now, there are two things to this. The existing business, what we have, covering maximum, covering maximum market which is the existing market, and developing new markets and new product lines. So in terms of, as I just said in the previous question, we are typically
we need to speed up now.
Yeah, we are typically B2B, and we are of course having multiple source of revenues in terms of be it geographical expansion or a product line expansion. So these would be the broad strategies which we would be following.
Thank you so much. Please give a warm round of applause.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
The management will be here during the lunch breaks as well. So any further questions you can always ask them during the networking round. As per our style and tradition, we invite members from the audience to come up. Also, please remain here. So one good thing about this current bull market is a widespread participation from different segments of the country, different segments of society. So I'm very happy that this time we got some army officers also over here. So I'll request Colonel Gagandeep Singh and Colonel Akshay Jain to please come on stage, please. Colonel Akshay Jain, please also.